I'm Maggie Onosorgan, the Public Programs Manager here at the Tamarind Museum, and thank you for joining us today for today's program, The Art of Ryan Singer. Before we begin our program, as usual, I would like to acknowledge that the Tamarind is located in southern Arizona on lands where the Otham, Hopi, Oshwe, Ueme, and Apache families have lived for untold generations and whose wisdom and traditions live on today in vibrant communities. We are grateful for what all of these communities, rich in history, have to teach us. We would also like to thank our members and donors who enable the Tamarind to provide these free online programs and to fulfill Tamarind's mission to foster, promote the knowledge and understanding of the Native peoples of the Americas through research, education, conservation, and community engagement. To learn how you can assist the Tamarind in supporting its mission and programs by becoming a member or donor, please visit our website, tamarind.org. Please also join us on Saturday, December 2nd for a talk on American Indian history and public education with Julie Cajun, a member of the Confederate Salish tribe. And for those of you who might be in the area on Thanksgiving weekend, please stop by the museum Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, November 24th through 26th. Join us for join us for a Mata Ortiz show and sale featuring Master Potter Aurelia Lopez. She's known for her incredibly intricate geometric painted designs, and she will be demonstrating her pottery. She will also be bringing other potters with her, and her work will be available for purchase. Along with the Mata Ortiz Pottery Show on Friday and Saturday, we will have a book signing with author Charmaine Samuelson and her new book, Spencer McMullen, Memories, Mystique, and Mata Ortiz, a biography on the anthropologist who came across one Casada and the pottery of Mata Ortiz. And that will be Friday and Saturday from 11 to 3. For more details about the talks or any of our other events, please visit our website. And today, if you'd like to ask Ryan any questions, please type them in the Q&A box, and we'll try to gather those at the end of his presentation and answer as many as we can. As usual, a link to the recording of today's program will be sent to everyone who registered, and will also be able to view later this evening on our YouTube channel, Tamarind Foundation. So today we are pleased to have Ryan Singer here with us today to share his work and talk about his history. Ryan Singer is a Diné artist based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was born in Cedar City, Utah, but originally from Tuba City. He grew up on various parts of the Navajo Reservation, and in his work, he often reflects on his childhood and creates artwork based on his Navajo heritage and incorporates pop cultural elements. He's one of the artists that they have included in the Indigenous Futurism movement, but he's been creating art like this long before there was a movement and before it was recognized and named. He also is known for his realism portraits of Native subjects. His work has garnered several awards, including from SWAIA's Indian Market. He's in the collection of several museums and collections worldwide. He has shows coming up at Blue Rain Gallery and at the Autry Museum. Ryan has recently acquired his BFA in studio art from the University of New Mexico, where he worked at the esteemed Tamarind Institute, and he now plans on working toward his MFA, all while keeping us enthralled with all his new creations. So please welcome Ryan Singer.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. I just want to introduce myself. I'll introduce myself in Navajo first, and then in the Diné language. SWAIA Ryan Singer Nishya, Tódich'iinii Nishle, Tódich'iinii Bashishin, Zethana Deshache, Do Ashia Deshanella, which basically means, hi, my name is Ryan Singer. My first clan is Bitterwater clan. My second clan, which is my dad's clan, is the Towering House people. The third clan is my mom's dad's clan, which is Mini Goat's clan, and my dad's clan is Salt clan. I live here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was born in Cedar City, Utah, and I've been drawing since as long as I can remember. So I'm here to just do a slide presentation about my artwork, kind of like the history of where I got started, and kind of like following myself through my childhood, through my school, all my work. and the beginning of my work and all my influences and stuff like that, and then moving up to my current work. So that's what I'll be talking about today. So you can start the slide. Okay, change. So basically, like I said, I was born in Cedar City, Utah when my parents were going to school. And I can barely remember moving to the reservation. I was probably about 3 or 4, must have been around 77. And I remember living in mini farms. And this is the time that Star Wars came out. So I remember watching it as a kid with my school. So these are kind of like vivid memories of kind of growing up around that time. And this was kind of like when I remember starting to draw, and I remember doing like drawings and people kind of taking notice, and also starting to really like drawing and like, you know, do it more and more. So the influences I had were comic books, horror and sci-fi films, and then also music. You can change. So this Kiss album was the first album I got. Geez, I must have been like 3 or 4. And I think it was a couple of years old, maybe. And I used to look at the album cover and listen to the record and just stare at the painting, because this was an actual painting on the album cover. And I used to just sit there and look at it and stare at it for hours and stuff like that. So that was kind of like a big influence, looking at album covers and looking at artwork all over. Change. And then I remember drawing several comic book covers, and I remember drawing The Thing for one of my friends for school project or whatever. And I remember I did like drawing all the detail and all the little bits of rocks on the thing, so that was pretty fun to do. So I used to draw Spider-Man, the Hulk, of course, The Thing, Ghost Rider. So all these images would really kind of impact my drawing later on as I got older. Change. And I used to watch the old Universal Studios monsters, like the black and white ones, like Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman. Those were all kind of like my favorite things to watch. And I remember as a kid at that time having like really vivid dreams about living in my house and then having like these monsters chase me throughout the night. And I'd be like really tripped out and scared and stuff like that. But I guess I got kind of over all that stuff after a while. But I've always liked monsters and got into sci-fi as well. Change. And then this is the time when I saw Star Wars the first time as a kid when it first came out. And I remember seeing it down in Phoenix with my school when I was in mini farms. And we traveled down there in a little van, and then we went down there. And I remember looking at all the cardboard cutouts and all the things hanging from the ceiling. And I remember the big long theater and watching the first beginning part of the movie and just all the excitement. And I remember I watched the beginning part when they're on Tatooine, that the Star Wars, like like the sand people and people living on Tatooine, they had like really rundown kind of like beat up droids and like vehicles, like the land speeder had dents and all kinds of scratches. It was all dirty, and all this stuff was kind of like used up, and it wasn't all sleek and clean like how a lot of the other sci-fi movies before Star Wars came out. So I noticed that right off as a kid, and I thought, wow, they paid attention to all this detail. So that kind of helped create that fantasy in mind that this was kind of a real area, or this was could be a real place. change. And then as I got older, I started to get in, as I was still drawing and stuff like that, drawing like album covers and sci-fi, Star Wars stuff. I started to get into surrealism. So I started looking at Salvador Dali books. I would go to the library, look at all the images, read up on Dali's life. Then I'd also found out he was into the subconscious and subconscious and unconscious ideas of people's minds. So that was his, I guess, interpretations of dreams and stuff like that, and making these paintings. So I got really into reading some of Sigmund Freud's, like some of the books that he did and stuff about dreams. And I got really into that stuff as a kid. And then also, as I was into like music as a young kid, I was really into metal, like Ozzy, Black Sabbath, Kiss. And then as I got into my teen years, I discovered skateboarding, and then like this crossover kind of genre called like skate rock or thrash. And so I was also into Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, kind of bands like that. And they kind of like crossed over into sort of like the punk kind of genre of music. And they kind of like, I started to listen to bands like Suicidal Tendencies, COC, Corrosion of Conformity. The Misfits were a big band. So you could be listening to metal and listen to Misfits and still listen to punk and listen to the Misfits. So those were kind of crossover kind of bands. And eventually I got into punk and lowbrow art during this time, probably when I was like close to 18, 16, 18, change. So this is a Salvador Dali painting called Autumn Cannibalism. So stuff like this I was really into. And I kind of started to draw stuff like this when I was a teenager. And they were kind of like comic book looking kind of drawings. So this was a big influence change. And Husted was a big influence. He was an artist that did artwork for Metallica. He had his own skateboard that he would make called Zorlak skateboards. And he was also a singer for the punk band Septic Death. And so I would follow all his artwork. He would put his artwork in Thrasher magazine. So I'd go in there and kind of like copy some of his work and stuff like that. So this was a big influence to me growing up as a teenager. I must have been like 14, 15, 16 years old. And I still like his artwork now, change. And right around 15, I heard Black Flag's Louie Louie cover. And so that up at this point, I was all into metal, like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, and stuff like that. And I heard Black Flag, and this song just kind of blew me away. Just the energy and the sound, and just like just the raw energy and the speed and aggression and stuff like that. Really kind of blew me away and just got me so excited. So after that, I started looking for more music that was similar or anything like from Black Flag or any of the bands that were kind of like in the same genre of punk rock. So I got into that as a kid, change. And then right around this time, I was probably about 18, going into college, and I discovered Juxtaposed magazine. Found Robert Williams was an artist who co-founded this magazine, and I started looking at the artwork that was in these magazines. This must have been the early 90s, and pre-internet. All this stuff is pre-internet. So if you wanted to find anything, you would have to go to a bookstore, go to the library. You couldn't just Google things or whatever. And if you wanted music, you'd have to go to the record store, music store, or find friends that had music and you could borrow or record stuff from them. So all this stuff was like kind of, you had to research it yourself and go find all this stuff. So that was also kind of a fun thing to do, was like on a treasure hunt, trying to figure out what music's cool, or what stuff you can find that you can get into. So go in and change. So right around this time, I started to I was in college and I was studying forestry, and then I worked with the Forest Service for about 5 years and kind of just got burnt out on it. So I went back to school and I ended up going to ASU, and I changed my major to art, and I started really like understanding, everything about like two-dimensional design, color theory, really looking at other artists, different artists, like Renaissance artists and pop artists and stuff like that. And so one time I had an experiment. I was kind of like flipping through this art book, and I was looking through it as fast as I could. And then the one thing that kind of just kept sticking in my head that I could remember as I was flipping through the book was Andy Warhol's Campbell soup can change. So as I was going through that book, that was the only thing I could remember because I was flipping through it. So I just looked at the image for a while, and then I decided to make this painting. This was 2005 when I was still at ASU. And so basically it mimics the whole idea of the Campbell soup can. It has to do with Navajo food, Navajo culture. There's arrowheads, and it kind of mimics the whole Campbell soup can. So this was a fun piece to do. And eventually I made t-shirts, aprons, prints, stickers, all that stuff. So that was kind of fun to do. I still make these every once in a while. Change. And then in 2002 in November, which was like 21 years ago, I had my first one-man show down in Phoenix on Graham Avenue at the Buckaroo Parish. And one of the paintings I had was this painting. And I got this idea one night before I was going to go to sleep. And I was kind of like stressed out, like trying to figure out how many paintings I could bring to the show. And I started falling asleep, and I started going to sleep, and my eyes are still open, and I was looking at the ceiling. Then all of a sudden I was dreaming, but my eyes were open, and I was driving at night on a road, and this sign just went right next to me. I drove past it on the right. It was this burning wagon sign. So I woke up really quick, and I kind of like sketched it out, and I went back to sleep. The next morning I went to the art store. I bought a 3-foot by 3-foot canvas, and I did this painting. And eventually I made t-shirts like this too, and stickers and magnets and prints. So this eventually would become my logo, which I still keep today on my business cards and my invoices and stuff like that. Change. As I take a drink of coffee, it's kind of funny. This is my next image. This is Gokwe, and I use Gokwe instead of Okwe. Gokwe is the Navajo, the Western Navajo dialect for coffee, and there's a couple of dialects. There's Okwe and Gokwe. Okwe I think is more popular, so I decided to use this one. Plus, I'm originally from the western side of the reservation, Tuba City, which is near going towards Grand Canyon, in between Page and Flagstaff. So that's why I use this one. And I did several prints like this. I did this like mono print where I threw paint in the back and just kind of hit it with a squeegee. And then I did the image of the Gokwe image right on top with the coffee pot. And I did like t-shirts like this. I did aprons, and of course prints. So eventually these were kind of like the start of my sort of art career, close to like 20 years ago. Change. And go ahead and change. This is a painting I did in 2009. This is my grandmother, my mom's mom. I did this painting, and I didn't see this painting after I bought it or after I painted it, because the Navajo Nation Museum took it and they put it in their the museum at the Monument Valley. They had a art museum in there, so they had it up there for like I don't know, 6 or 7 years. So it was up there. I've never seen it hanging up, but my wife went up there and took a picture of it one time. But eventually I got it back. It's hanging in our living room. But basically this is a painting of my grandmother wearing her jewelry and stuff like that. And I showed her this image one time and she I asked her, I said, who is this? And then she goes, that's me. And I said, how can you tell? And she goes, because that's my brooch right there. So that was kind of funny because she recognized her jewelry. Change. And this, I made this painting in 2008, Play Navajo. And the idea I got from this was remembering when I used to live in mini farms, I had the play, the, what do you call it? The little people, little farm, the little farm that opened up that made a moo sound when you open the door to the farm, to the barn. And I remember playing with that as a kid with all the little animals and on a Saturday morning, and then all my family was there, my dad, my mom, my cousins, my grandma, my grandpa, they were all there. And they were cooking. And I remember just like this real just memory of that kind of that morning of just being a little kid and playing with this. And so this idea came like to make this little people playset like a Navajo scenery. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea. So I got an award for this at SWAIA, the Santa Fe Indie Market in 2008, the Adult Smile Award. I guess it has to do with humor or making somebody happy or making somebody smile or something like that. So that was pretty cool. Change. And then 2008, I kind of started the painting series with this whole Navajo Star Wars kind of concept. This idea was because I always thought of Sand people as kind of like nomadic people, and the Navajos were always kind of nomadic too, where they would kind of travel all over or not necessarily stay in one place, but kind of like move around or have a couple of homes here and there. They would go from their winter home or to their summer home and move back and forth and stuff like that, or just kind of move about. And I always thought of the Sand people and the Navajo people kind of similar in that way. So I did this painting with this Tuscan Raider with this Navajo war blanket draped over the back of him with a hogan in the back. And there's a bantha, that animal that he rides around in the desert. So this is kind of like a Navajo reservation scene. And of course, there's like a cup of coffee pot in the back on top of that little stove. There's kind of like a motif. There's coffee motifs throughout the whole. A lot of my paintings have coffee motifs. There's either a coffee cup, Folgers coffee can, or a coffee pot. Change. Okay, and then eventually I started to get into this Indigenous Futurisms, and so it goes into the ideas of environmentalism, into Native American history, also Navajo history, and then slipstream scenarios, kind of like time warp, where things kind of mesh into other worlds, going into this other world. So that's kind of like a slipstream scenario. Change. So this one is called Sometimes They Come Back. And this was in 2017. And the whole idea behind this one was, I remember seeing all these like rundown cars, kind of like rusting and just kind of like not disintegrating, not just sitting on the reservation, all these beat up cars that just kind of like run till they basically die, and there's skeletons all over the reservation. I'm sure that's like everywhere too, but I remember, as a kid playing in them too, running around. It's probably not that safe, but running around, there's broken glass, there's rust, bugs, whatever. But as a kid, it was not even a big thing. But I remember like this idea of this like this alien entity kind of like forced all these cars to come together into this big giant like sphere of all these like broken down cars then it became like this little spaceship kind of like thing. And then there's like these chimneys coming out with smoke coming up. So the thing is kind of like floating across the Navajo Res, and then it's kind of like looking at this one car on the ground. It looks like he's gonna like suck him up or whatever. And there's a Navajo man on the horse kind of just looking up. So so that's kind of a environmental piece, sci-fi piece. So it's also about waste and stuff like that. So I like this piece a lot. Change. And this piece is called Decolonize Ewok. And I used the idea of Star Wars characters, this Ewok from the planet Endor from the movie Return of the Jedi. So I made this in 2019. And I remember seeing these books of the indigenous people, the native people going to boarding schools. And boarding school, you would have to, if you don't know about the boarding school stories and the history of the boarding school, you should look it up. It's basically the governments force the indigenous kids off the land from their homes and then into schools, into boarding schools, where they're forced to learn English. They cut their hair, change their clothes into uniforms, and they were punished and kind of like it was kind of a form of genocide, taking away their culture. So this idea was kind of to mimic these photos I used to see in books, where they would have an indigenous kid with long hair, and he had his like his you know, like his regalia, and then another picture right next to him, and he's the same kid, and his hair's cut, and it's all nice, and he's wearing a uniform, and he looks kind of unhappy and in his setting, and it's all clean and stuff like that. So this idea was kind of like to take the Star Wars character, where this Ewok is on the planet Endor in his indigenous land, and to kind of like force him to cut his hair a little bit, get away from his clothes, and put on a uniform and put him in a setting that looks kind of like the Empire from Star Wars. So this was kind of like a really impactful painting. I really like this painting. This painting is in, they bought this painting, Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. So they own this painting. Change. And then this painting I painted 11 years ago. Wow. And this one is basically in my hometown, Tuba City. And it's a Tuba City spaceport. And this is kind of like that slipstream scenario, where there's kind of like time or things are meshing together, time warps, or you know, like interdimensional time warps, I guess. And this idea was kind of just remembering as a kid, going to the Tuba City trading post as a kid, buying popsicles after school, or going there during the summer when it was really hot and buying a soda, and everything was really cheap. It was like 25 cents, you know, less than $1, you know. And so that has a lot of memories. But I also added this whole idea of Star Wars, like the Star Wars characters are interacting with the Navajo people of, you know, like maybe 18th century, 19th century Tuba City trading posts. So this was established, the trading post was established in 1870. So this could be like late 1800s. And so there's like the Mos Eisley looking buildings in the background. There's the land speeder. There's a sand person walking with a bluebird flower. So these are kind of like just images I put together to make this kind of like this painting have like a dialogue. It could say many things too. So I really like this painting. Change. And this is my current work, going in change. So this stuff I've been working in the last few years. This one I did a few years ago, 2019, called Sand People Sand Painting. And basically it's two Tuscan Raiders doing a Navajo kind of ritual inside a hogan. And I basically mashed up the idea of Sand people on Tatooine, their culture, and Navajo culture. So it's kind of funny. I put that bantha tapestry on the wall, and I remember in my grandma's hogan, they used to have like rifles on the hanging on the wall, and so I put the bantha stick up on top, and then one of their long rifles up there as well. And I put an NTUA calendar in the background, and of course there's coffee, coffee cup, coffee pot, Folgers can, and then the Tuscan Raiders are wearing like running shoes from the 80s. So it's kind of a funny thing. And then I asked some medicine men or a medicine man if this was okay to do a painting like this. And he said that it was okay as long as I didn't use any sacred images or sacred images in the sand painting itself. So I took that into consideration. So I did the idea of just R2D2 on the sand painting, and then the idea of R2 being sick. And the sand people are trying to cure him from a virus. So that was kind of funny. Go ahead and change. And then this painting I did as a commission for the museum, Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts. So what they wanted a painting like this, so I did this painting for them a few years ago, and I really like this piece because it says so much about. It has to do with sci-fi and history. There's Columbus's ships and the Cthulhu coming out of the water. So there's all kinds of like action. And if you look up close, there's people on the boats and stuff like that. So it's a really cool piece. I always like that idea of Cthulhu coming out of the ocean. And if you don't know who Cthulhu is, look up H.P. Lovecraft, The Call of the Cthulhu. He's got several other books too, but that's kind of like the famous one. So I do several paintings, Cthulhu paintings, and different various themes and different sizes and versions. So I like doing that kind of like sci-fi stuff, and the idea of fantasy and horror, kind of mixing it all together, and then the idea of redemption and the what if, the Columbus ship and stuff like that. So it has to do with history and all that stuff. So it's like anti-colonization, anti-colonism. Okay, change. And then this one is called interdimensional gambling. Basically, this is the scene where this Navajo couple is out hanging out with these couple of Jawas. They're sign crawlers in the back. Of course, there's coffee over here. The grandma's just kicking back, drinking a soda. And then the Jawas and the Navajo man are playing cards. And then there's like a stump right there. And it's got like a Rubik's Cube and this whole scenery. There's like a goat in the back and some sheep. So this is kind of like a whole Navajo scene with these Star Wars characters interacting and stuff like that. And then gambling's kind of always been a thing that I remember seeing older Navajo men do when I used to go to the dances and stuff like that as a kid. They'd hang around and chew skull or smoke cigarettes, and they would gamble and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool to see them play cards, play Navajo 10. Go ahead and change. And this is a litho print, 4-color litho print I made last year at Tamarind University at UNM. And I took a class there, and I did a collaboration with this printer. And I came up with this drawing and this idea, and then we collaborated on the colors and all these different things that go into this print. So I think about 25 of these, 24 of these limited edition prints, and I sold all these pieces. And then this was really cool process. I wish I could keep doing lithos, but if I did it outside of the class, it'd be so expensive. So eventually I would like to go back and do more images like this, or, different things, in a whole printing litho or silk screening or whatever. That would be kind of fun to do. Change. And this painting I did last year as well. Spider-Man meets Spider-Woman. It's basically, I believe this was a commission too. And this Navajo lady sitting down weaving a rug, and it's got the Spider-Man, almost like a 8-bit kind of like graphic of Spider-Man's kind of like looking off of the rug. And this is pretty standard, kind of one of my pieces with that matches up Navajo culture with pop culture and kind of mixes them together. Go ahead and change. And then I did this one too as well last year, Hope in a Hogron. I had this idea, like I saw, for some reason I saw this, the image of Princess Leia giving R2-D2 the plans to destroy the Death Star. And I remember just that little kind of like that scene right there, just that little slit of this scene. And then for some reason, I remember as a kid being on the reservation, being outside, and then like going to the Hogan at night, and then seeing just that light come out. And then somehow that idea just popped in and it worked perfectly with that scene of, I put that scene of Leia and R2 inside the Hogan, kind of like in the evening sunset, and added all these different colors and stuff like that, and made the whole thing Navajo. There's like the Folgers can, there's the Navajo rug, there's a little radio, and there's also like a little pictures in the back, coffee pot, center block holding the door open, chimney, the rock formation, stuff like that. So this was a really good piece. I really enjoyed this one. Change. And I did this one at the beginning of the year. This is a really big piece. This is 40 by 30 inches. And the child and the lamb. And I got this was inspired by Renaissance paintings, the Madonna and the Child. And I kind of used the name the child and the lamb. So I used the child as the child from the Mandalorian, and the lamb as like the lamb, because Navajos raise sheep in their livestock. They use the sheep for food, as well as the wool for wool, or to make rugs. And so I wanted to make this piece really mimic kind of that Renaissance style of Madonna holding Madonna and the Child, which is also brought up through brought up through the history of art. I think the Egyptians used kind of like the similar idea of Madonna and the Child, where they would Nefertiti would hold the little baby. So that relief, like stuff like that, relief carvings they had in Egyptian walls were kind of like mimic later in the Renaissance and throughout history. So this is kind of repeating that whole idea, but making it with a Navajo background. So this was kind of a fun piece to do. I really enjoy this piece. Change. And then this painting I did this summer. I finished the end of June, and this painting will be going into the Tódich'iinii Museum in Los Angeles, California. And this will be part of a Indigenous Futures exhibition that will open next year, September 2024, there at the Tódich'iinii Museum. This is called They Have Both Coffees. And I remember as a kid going on the reservation, going to the dances, and they'd have vendors and stuff like that. And I remember seeing like the rainbow, or remember getting those rainbow snow cones. And I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world. Like it wasn't just one flavor, it was like 3 flavors, and they turned it into a rainbow. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So I kind of I made a few paintings like this. So this was kind of like a bigger piece of a Tuscan Raider holding a snow cone, rainbow snow cone, and he's looking back at the Navajo vendors back there. Of course, there's a Bantha, a couple of Jawas, and then they got a Navajo food stand. And then he's looking back, and the idea of the title, They Have Both Coffees, is I don't know if you can see it, but underneath the vendor in there, on the little vendor stand, it says Akwe and Gokwe, which means both coffees. So I don't know if he's thinking about that or I'm thinking about that, but it's kind of like an inside joke for me. So I get a kick out of kind of like these things that you like, little clues or little things that you can read into some of the paintings that I do. Go ahead and change. And then I also did this one back in August this year. And this was a really fun piece. This is basically an homage to Vincent van Gogh's Starry, Starry Night. And I remember reading up on his idea of making this painting was he would kind of like study the nighttime, the night sky out of his balcony. And then you would paint the next day from memory what he saw at night. So this is basically what he saw. And this was made right before he passed away, maybe a year or maybe 6 months right before he passed away. So this was kind of like just an homage to him, his artwork. And then also putting shiprock in there as the kind of like the main focal point. And then the dinosaurs, because I like dinosaurs. I've always liked dinosaurs as a kid, just to kind of like be a playful, fun kind of aspect to the whole piece. And I remember doing this painting and doing all the swirls and adding all the colors and stuff like that. I remember doing all these like the paint, like little lines and stuff like that. And it started to drive me kind of crazy. Like it started making me a little bit nuts because I was getting dizzy or something. It was making me feel dizzy and kind of really weird. But I was telling my wife about that. I was like, I never felt anything like that. It was so strange doing this painting because I got all into it. I almost got sucked into like that whole like warp or like that like whirlwind or whatever that little whirl is or whatever. It was so weird. But anyway, I had fun doing this painting. I would like to do more homage pieces, maybe another Van Gogh piece like that at some point. But I think this is the last slide, so change. Okay, thank you. Yeah. And right there's my information if you want to get a hold of me.
Oop, did I? Yeah, there it is.
There's my email if you want to get a hold of me.
Thank you, Ryan. Let me
Thank
see.
you.
We've got looks like we have a question. What medium do you use in tonight? Tonight.
That's
Love the colors.
acrylics. They're acrylic paintings on canvas.
And then another comment, gorgeous work, so well worth the wait. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So what's up next for you? What are you looking forward to?
Art or life?
Just general. I know you were thinking about going back to finish your master's.
Yeah,
Master's.
gonna try to get into either AS or UNM or IIA.
Oh,
So hopefully it's starting next fall, like next August.
yeah. Is there any artists that you look up to or that have influenced you as far as Native artists?
Well, Shanto Begay is a big influence.
Yeah, I love his work.
Whitethorn is a big influence. Norman Akers, Stephen Yazzie, Ryan Huna Smith, David Bradley, bunch of artists that I really like.
Yeah.
Shanto and Bahi were kind of like the ones I saw everywhere, like growing up, because like as a kid you don't really notice things until
Right.
10 years old or kind of a teenager, and that was kind of like in the 80s. So that was like they were doing stuff in the 80s. They would have posters, they would do flyers for this and that. So I saw it everywhere, and I always liked their work. So I know both of them too fairly well.
Yeah, I love Shanta's work. So
Yeah.
here's one from Leaf. Can you speak about your landscapes? The clouds and the rocks are clearly distinct. Do you portray particular plants?
Well, basically, I just kind of like well, living in Albuquerque, I'm far away from the reservation, or from where I'm from. And I miss the landscapes. So I'm kind of nostalgic, for remembering those times running around as a kid. I used to herd sheep at my grandma's house, carry around my Star Wars toys, and then play with them out there in the landscapes. So those landscapes were kind of what I'm capturing in my paintings. It's kind of like that nostalgia, homesick, wanting to go back because I miss it because I don't have. I mean, it's out here. It's like a city.
Right.
It's like roads and sidewalks and buildings. So there's none of that kind of like idea of home, So that's why I do that. And basically, they're like, like the juniper, pinon trees, the sandstone rock formations. I do a lot of the Monument Valley kind of like looking kind of like rock structures, like the rabbit brush, the sagebrush, all those kind of like, that vegetation that is primarily all over, the reservation out there. So that's what I try to like, add to the painting, to make it more authentic, I guess.
Yeah, even the color of the dirt that
Mhm.
you've got.
Yeah, I kind of mix all kinds of colors to make it kind of a reddish, kind of like a
Yeah.
tone or whatever. And it's fun to do that. It's fun to like mix with colors. It's like I haven't even talked about the whole idea of color because when I do paintings, I do an underpainting like that Tuba City spaceport. Underneath that is all silver. It's just like a real plain silver. So you took the painting outside, you can see it shining, shimmering underneath the actual painting. So what happens is those colors in your eye, they automatically mix. You know what I mean? So your brain automatically picks up those colors and they mix.
Yeah, that's
Something
interesting.
you don't have to think about. So other paintings, like all my other paintings, I do under base colors, which I usually add like 3 colors and I then mix it all together. Then I actually do the actual painting on top. And then I leave a little bit of room to make sure that there's painting, the underpainting can be seen a little bit so they kind of mix. So when you look at it in person, your eyes automatically mix. So you're taking in all these colors and you're not even realizing it.
Yeah, it's like an optical illusion.
Yeah. So it's fun for me to kind of come up with those ideas and themes, and I play with color theory and how people kind of how they receive the artwork.
Yeah. So last question is someone is just asking where they can get your prints. Are there prints available?
I have no prints.
No prints?
I probably won't do any prints for a while. I'm not sure if I ever will. That's kind of like one thing that people always ask me. And the idea of I want to do just originals because
Right.
when they do prints, they kind of saturate the whole the market. There's other
Yeah.
artists that do prints because because it's affordable and stuff like that. But I wanted to keep the idea of the originals worth it to people. You know what I mean? The value and the it's to me it's better because the paintings they're almost, I wouldn't say they're 3D, but there is texture to the paintings. There is lumps and like because you can see it on the painting. When you see it on the computer screen, you can't see it, but in real life you can see all the different the texture from the painting, which I add to the painting to make it something special for people to own and stuff like that. That's why I don't want to do that, because it'll lose all that stuff, not to mention saturate the whole market. I go to art like antique stores and thrift stores, and there's prints everywhere that they have from all the different decades, from the 60s, 70s, 80s. I've had prints end up in what do you call it, like thrift stores and stuff like that. And that's kind of why I stopped doing it, because I just kind of like it just kind of felt like real weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff
Yeah.
like somebody like I think emailed me years back and say, "Hey, I found your print in this thrift store in Ohio." You know what I mean?
Oh
And
my
they
God.
sent me a picture, and I was like, "Oh my God, okay, that's it. I'm not doing any prints anymore." You know what I mean? So that was kind of why, because it's just,
Okay.
it goes everywhere. It's not as special as an actual painting. And then when I do like commission work, I can do like, you know, like, I guess, payments or whatever, you know.
Right, and you do smaller pieces and
Mhm,
you
and
do
smaller
the
pieces.
herd
Um,
fair.
I'm
and
actually gonna,
Indian
I'm
market.
not gonna do
right?
the herd this year, but I'm gonna do the Autry.
Oh, that's right.
The Autry show. I think it's in June. So I'm gonna
Okay.
skip the herd this year. And then do the Autry show in June, and then do the Autry exhibition in September. But they already have those pieces already. So, but coming up in a couple of weeks is the group show at the Blue Rain. I'll be part of, and I think that's a miniature shows where we're gonna do a bunch of smaller pieces. So I guess it would be on the more affordable kind of end. You know, they won't be big pieces, so that people could go there for, I guess, Christmas presents or whatever, you know. So I'll have a few of those up there at the Blue Rain. The opening is the 24th, and the whole weekend of Thanksgiving up in Santa Fe.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Blue Rain Gallery, they have a website. It's a beautiful gallery in Santa Fe.
Yeah, awesome artists.
Yeah, really good selection of work. Ryan, I think that's it. I thank you very much and really look forward to seeing what you do next. I've watched your work for a long time.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Thank you, Amron.
Yeah,
Maggie.
and thank you
Museum.
everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for watching and listening, and sorry about the first time, but thanks for coming back and listening to me talk and ramble.